Hey, so there are 4 documents that will help make your nonprofit life easier. I'm going to share them in this video today. Let's get started. Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. If you need help with your nonprofit, make sure you are subscribed to this channel because I drop videos every week. I'm extremely passionate about helping new and small nonprofits get up and running. So if you haven't joined my nonprofit Boss Nation, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to this channel, all right? So in this video, I'm sharing 4 documents that can help make your life easier. And these 4 documents don't necessarily fit a category. They have to deal with like your internal structure. They have to deal with fundraising. They're kind of all over the place. But I was sitting down thinking like, okay, what are 4 documents like nonprofit founders need to know, like in case they don't have them in place? What is something I can remind them of to help get them in order? So that's where this video came from. I hope it's helpful. I hope it doesn't feel too random for you. So the first document that I would share is a case statement. I have talked about case statements before. If you check out some of my fundraising videos, I'm linking one above. A case statement is one of the first things you need to do before you ask for money. And this is usually an internal document that you use as a nonprofit to make your case for why you deserve funding. So you need to outline, okay, what's the problem that you're solving? Who you're serving, what are they struggling with, why is it such a big problem, like making the case for it and using data and information to make the case. You're telling the story of your nonprofit, the why behind your nonprofit. You're talking about what you do to resolve the problem and the outcomes that you hope to improve. And you're trying to identify what makes you different, what makes you stand out. Because all of these things that you're writing in this document help you make your case when it's time to persuade someone to give to you. So you use it as a reference document when you're creating your fundraising appeals, when you're creating your grant proposals, all these kinds of things, when you're putting information on your website, when you're creating brochures or one-pagers, so you can streamline your work to make sure you're all sharing the same message and it comes from the same place. So I love using case statements as like what I call my scratch document. So when I was in school and I would have to write a paper, I would start with the scratch document and I would just throw any and everything. It didn't even have to be complete in sentences, but I would throw in a document to try to organize my thinking, and then I would start massaging it and making it better. And that's kind of like what your process should be for a case statement. You're throwing out all the things that you want to say about your nonprofit and you're massaging it to make it make sense. And then whatever you use to make sense will then be used as a reference when you start to write other documents where you need to persuade people, like your pitch deck. So I always like to bring up the case statement for folks so that they're aware that this document actually exists. It's usually created by the fundraiser in an organization, but it's absolutely helpful for you as a nonprofit founder when you're just starting your nonprofit. I do have a template for a case statement in my nonprofit startup workbook. It's one of the bonus worksheets as a part of the 10 worksheets that already come with the workbook. So if you're interested in figuring out how to create a plan for your first year, that workbook will help you do it. So I'm linking that below. Number 2 is a twofer. It is your budget and your financial statements. So your budget should come from your goals for your year. The way I like to describe it, your budget is just your goals you want to accomplish in numbers, the activities that you want to carry out in numbers. So your budget would include the expenses for your year and the revenue for the year. So everything you need to spend and everything you need to make. And you want to make sure you at least break even. You really want to make more. You want to have more revenue, but at least you're breaking even for your organization. And having a budget makes sure that you're clear on all the things that you need to accomplish for the year, and also make sure you're clear on how much you need to raise. A budget is an essential document when you are raising money for your nonprofit. You have to be able to understand how much you're trying to raise because you need a fundraising goal when you're raising money. But also when it comes to explain to your donor or your funder what you need to use the money for, then that process of developing your budget and figuring out your goals and your activities, you will have it because you already created that budget. And just to let you know, when you're applying for grants, because I know a lot of you are interested in that, you're going to have to supply your organizational budget in most circumstances and or a program budget. So it just makes sense to have this in place. It's just an important planning document for your organization, but you should just have it for other reasons as well. The other piece is you want to have financial statements, especially if you want to go after grants. More than likely, a grant funder is going to ask you for financial statements. So that means things like your balance sheet or your income statement, which shows what money you brought in and what money went out, right? And there are other documents that funders may want to see as well, additional financial statements, but those two are the basic ones, right? Sometimes a funder will let you get by with just submitting your 990 tax form, but eventually you're going to have to start preparing and developing your financial statements. And you should be looking at them anyway as a nonprofit board. You all should be looking at that to see what your cash flow is like, to see what's coming down the pike. Also, just to compare to your budget and to see whether or not you're hitting the mark and if you need to adjust or do something different in the year. And when you grow to a size where you need an audit, then you'll be able to have audited financial statements so that you can submit those to funders, because you'll see that in a lot of grant requirements that they require not just financial statements, but audited financial statements. So everything I'm talking about is just to prepare you for when you grow and when you get to a point where you got to be a little bit more organized, more professional. So it's important to have this stuff in the beginning so you're ready when it's time to go to that next level. Number 3 is standard operating procedures, or SOPs. So this really speaks to your internal processes. So there are processes that you complete for many different tasks, maybe related to fundraising, maybe to doing some of your programming, maybe to managing your volunteers, maybe for like sending out correspondence. There are processes that are involved with everything you have to do for your organization, right? Those that you do internally and those you do externally. And if you want to grow to a certain level, you have to get to a point where you can describe the work that you do so that someone else can pick it up and do it in place of you. And I'm specifically talking to the nonprofit founders who are doing everything, because I know you are, right? You want to get to a point where you can begin to delegate, where you can begin to shave off some things so you can have more time to be more strategic, to plan for your organization, and to make key connections in the community. In order to do that, you got to get some things off your back. So if you want people to come behind you and do the things that you're doing now, you got to write it down. You got to be able to describe the work you do. What's the purpose behind it? How do you do it? What are the things or the resources you need to get it done? And you want to have it written down in an organized way so that if someone picks it up and begins to read it and study it, they can pretty much make do with what's there. So I would recommend that even the things that you're doing now that you don't plan to offload on anybody, still write it down. Because the other thing is, what if you become incapacitated? God forbid. Or what if you get to a point where you don't have time to explain something, or you're unable for whatever reason to explain something? You don't want your organization to come to a halt just because you, the one person, can't do it. So I recommend even now, start writing down your processes. And this is not going to be perfect, let me tell you, because I do this with Boss on a Budget too. It's constantly changing as I sign up for new services, as I design new processes, as I change what my goals are for the year. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be perfect, but you got to start somewhere. So my challenge to you is to begin to start writing down all of your processes so that someone can come behind you and take the load off. So before I go to the last one, I challenge you to pick a process that you want to write down and share it in the comments so we can hold each other accountable. So the final document I want to share is a master grant proposal. That is a proposal which outlines all the typical things you'll find in a grant proposal in one place, so that when it's time to start writing other grant proposals, you can just pull from that main document and just tweak and customize it based on that particular grant. This saves so much time, right? But this is the thing. It takes some time to pull all of this together. So it's worth it to invest the time up front to pull all these things together. So when you start applying for grants, you don't feel like you're starting from scratch every single time you start a new grant proposal. So I recommend you start a Google document or a document you can collaborate with and share, and assign people to start building different sections of the proposal. Now, I recorded a video way back, y'all, about the 10 common sections of a proposal. I am linking that above because that video is really helpful for you to understand what are all the typical things you're going to see in a proposal so you can be prepared. So I linked that video above, but I also have a grant writing workbook which does the same thing for you. It helps you create your master grant proposal. It helps identify all the major sections of a proposal, and it has a worksheet for each of those sections so you can build them out for yourself. So once you're done going through the workbook, it's already completed. You just got to pull it all together. So if you need that grant writing workbook, check out the link below. I'm putting that in the description box. And here's the thing. This is the reason why I started with the case statement. If you've done a lot of the work of your case statement, then it's a natural transition into your master grant proposal, because in your case statement, you're making the case, you're describing why you're needed, and you're doing the same thing in the grant proposal. It's your problem statement or your need statement. You're explaining what's the problem you're solving, who are you serving, what are they struggling with, why is this such a problem, how prevalent is this problem. All the things you need to do to make the case for why your services are needed and why you need that funder's resources is already there in the case statement, and you just transfer it and build it up into your master grant proposal. So all these documents, even though they seem like it's a lot, you know, when you're first starting out, it's a lot of investment to pull all the information together. Once you do it, you'll feel so much better, and it will help you operate more effectively as a nonprofit if you focus on these things. Was this helpful, y'all? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. If you need help, visit me at www.bossonabudget.com, and I'll see you in the next video.